This episode of the Pivot to Balance podcast is sponsored by Riverside.fm, the leading platform to record studio quality podcasts from anywhere. More than 70,000 other podcasts use Riverside, including myself, Gary Wee, Spotify, even the New York Times. What's amazing about Riverside is that when you're recording a podcast or remote interview, recording is independent of Wi-Fi stability, which is huge because content is recorded locally, which ensures reliable and uncompressed content quality. It is super intuitive and easy to use. Once your recording is done, you'll automatically be able to download separate audio and video tracks and edit your content with a few clicks. If you use social media, you also get magic clips from Riverside, which I love. So if you haven't tried Riverside yet, visit riverside.fm and use my code Akay15, which is AKAY15, to start recording studio quality sound and video and get 15% off a membership plan. Once again, it's riverside.fm. Use code AKAY15 to start recording today. Hey, before we dive into this week's episode, if you've been enjoying the show, I'd love your support. Take just 10 seconds to rate and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps others discover the wisdom and inspiration that I share on the Pivot to Balance podcast. Let's build a community of balance seekers together. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to share the love. Now let's dive into the episode. Hello and welcome to the Pivot to Balance podcast. I'm your host, Akay, and I hope you're doing well. In a world that pulls us in a million different directions and with a billion distractions, finding balance can feel like an ambiguous quest. Join me on this podcast as I try to navigate life's twists and turns with mindfulness, purpose, and grace. In each episode, we will dive into topics like self-care, personal growth, mindset shifts by sharing practical insights, stories, and maybe even interviews. Get ready to pivot, to recalibrate, and find your balance. Join me on the Pivot to Balance podcast, and I'll see you on the other side. So in today's episode, we are actually going to talk about something that I thought would really help a lot of people, especially because we're approaching the new year, and I know we're all like gearing up with our vision boards and goals and everything. So I thought it would be amazing to talk about how to set goals and actually achieve them. I've been talking to a couple of people these last couple of weeks, I'd say even a month or so, and I've been hearing like how, that hey, it's like great to set all of these goals, but I know that I'm not gonna, stick to them and actually accomplish them throughout the year. So for the past couple of years, from probably 2019, I have been setting goals as well. But what I'll do is I'll get through probably 4 weeks. If I get through 4 weeks, amazing. But most times I do 3.5 weeks, and then I stop working on those goals. So what I thought was I started building like these systems that those were really helping me stick to them. So I'll walk you through a couple of those. I'll walk you through a couple of concepts that are actually pretty well known. A lot of people know all of these methods that will help you stick to your goals, but we'll go through them one by one. But before we get into that, let's talk about why do so many people set goals and struggle to achieve them. The number one thing I think is when you're not really intentional about your goals, they tend to become a little bit of like a task. This mentality of, oh, I have to do this instead of I get to do this. That mentality shift is what will help you not exactly achieve these goals, but at least get into the mindset of, hey, I can, kind of like achieve them. I can do this. Especially because our brains are so wired to have like these instant wins. We need that dopamine hit. But what happens when you're actually interested in whatever goals you're setting and you're very intentional about why you're setting them, how do you think you're going to achieve them? And we'll get into those methods shortly. But if you think about, hey, why am I setting these goals? For example, my goal for the next year is I want to get fitter. I definitely want to get back into that kind of an Anusha, okay? So if you're not on video, if you're not watching this on video, I'm showing I'm a classical dancer. I'm showing my picture of me when I was 14 years old. I'm not trying to be whatever I was when I was 14, but I'm definitely trying to be in a more better place than I am right now. So the goal is that. But how do I actually get there? And why do I want to get there? And the thing is, I could tell you like, hey, by the end of April, I will look better than I do now. But what happens then is I'm going to tell myself, I'm going to do this until April and then I'm going to stop it. That's what most of us do, right? We start something and then once we're like 95 or 80% into it, we stop working on it because we think that we've achieved, I've come so close to it. Now I deserve something, I deserve a treat or something like that. But when you actually take the road of balance, when you pivot to balance, it's much more easier to achieve any of your goals. So my goal is to definitely become a much fitter person than I am now. So what I'm planning to do is I'm going to give myself a year to actually get started. I'm giving myself a year to get started. So now there's no pressure to look a certain way. There's no pressure for me to do certain sets or repetitions of any exercise. Now I've just told myself I'm going to do something, and the only goal is to be consistent. So the only goal is to work out. It could be going to the gym. It could be doing mat workouts. It could be just lifting weights. It could be doing push-ups. It could be anything. Any form of workout, I have to do it. It has to impact some part of my body. And it is equally important to prioritize rest days. So that's balance. When it comes to goals, all we do is, hey, I need to achieve this. I need to achieve this. I need to get to this place. I need to be this person. But those are not goals. Those are just your thoughts in that moment. You cannot call them goals. I don't know if you've heard this, but there's this trend on TikTok going, not now, I think it was a little while ago, but I love it. I'd probably set that as my alarm tone if I could. It's called consistency, consistency, consistency. It's the name of the game, bro. I absolutely love it. I don't know who said it. I haven't looked it up. I haven't done any research on it. So I just think it's definitely the only principle that you need. Again, I will give you a couple things that you can use to sort of build your goals around the system, but consistency. Consistency is the name of the game. So let's say that your goal for 2024 is like 5 things, right? The only thing that you need to remember, the only thing that you need to focus on is becoming consistent at whatever it is you plan on doing. The only goal that you need is consistency. I don't care where I am, who I'm with, what place I am. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do something to contribute to that. Not this psychology of if you don't want to go to the gym, just get up and go to the gym. And once you enter the gym, you just stop working out for some reason. Let's say that even if you go to the gym and you don't feel like working out, it's fine. You made it to the gym. Just do a couple of stretches. Maybe pick up a dumbbell or 2 or do cardio. Whatever it is. Just getting yourself there is you telling yourself, I am this person. I voted for myself to be this person, and I'm going to keep voting for myself to be this person. I think it's easy for you to not do something. I think it's difficult for you to become the person that you want to be. The reason so many people don't achieve their goals is because they're only dreaming. They're not building systems. They're not making strategic moves to get to the place that they want to be in. So now let's get into how can you actually achieve your goals. So let's get into the first goal setting approach, a very well-known approach, SMART goals. So what are SMART goals? You have to be very specific about it. So let's say that you want to get up at 5 a.m. for the next 4 weeks. Specific. I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. for the next 4 weeks. The next one is measurable. Can you measure it? Can you have a whiteboard or something, a piece of paper where you can track your progress? I know you can do this, so tick off every single time you get up at 5 a.m. Tick it off and say, hey, I've done 2 weeks straight, 2 more weeks to go. And the next thing is achievable. Make sure that getting up at 5 a.m. is something that you can actually do. If you are someone that works until midnight and you go to sleep at 2 a.m., getting up at 5 a.m. is not achievable. It is not achievable at all. So make sure that your goals are realistic to you. Again, they don't have to be realistic to anybody else, but to you. The next one is relevancy. Why are you trying to do that? Is that going to help you get to the place that you want to be, say 5 years from now or 2 years from now? I personally don't believe in 5-year plans, but if you want to do that, completely go ahead and do that. Just remember, whatever action you're taking today is voting for you to become the person you're supposed to be. So whatever action you're taking today, just remember that. One step at a time, but whatever step you take, you're just helping to build the future you. The next one is time bound. Like I said, 5 a.m., 4 weeks. And then are you going to stop after 4 weeks? Of course not. You can repeat the whole challenge again. So the reason why we have to give ourselves small goals is because they seem achievable. When you set really long goals, it seems daunting, right? So what you have to do is tell yourself, I'm going to do this for a year, but my first goal, the first baby step, is to complete this challenge for 4 weeks. Maybe don't call it a challenge now that I think about it, because I feel like challenge is you putting a lot of pressure on yourself. When it comes to consistency, I have noticed this personally, is when you tell yourself that something is a challenge, when you tell yourself, this is not something that I can achieve, it sort of puts you in a position of forcing yourself to do something. It shifts the whole I get to do it mindset to I have to do it mindset, which never works out well for anybody. So maybe don't call it a challenge. The next 3 things, the first thing I would say is chunking. Chunking your tasks into small ones are really helpful. So chunking of tasks is really just about you making sure that you do like 5% of whatever it is that you actually wanted to do. For example, my actual goal is to make 500 podcast episodes. If I tell myself that I want to make 500 podcast episodes by the end of this year, that's just me putting a lot of pressure on myself. A, I'm not going to like doing it. B, it's just not going to come out authentically. C, it's not going to resonate with anyone because I'm just putting a lot of pressure on myself. So what I like to do is weekly ones, I'm going to release an episode. And that's the goal. However long it takes for me to get 500 episodes, that's how long I'm going to do it. Yes, you can be effective. You can make decisions that are going to get you faster to your goals. But you also need to keep in mind that when you put a lot of pressure on yourself unnecessarily, they're not going to help you get any faster to your goals than, if you take your time. I always believe in being mindful. I always believe in being in the moment when you're doing something. Because if you tell me I need to make 500 podcast episodes by the end of this year, I will probably resent the whole process. And I am all about loving the process. When you're chunking your tasks, you end up loving the process as well. It's just a win-win situation. The second thing is habit stacking. One of the best examples that I can give you here, first kind of journaling that I started was gratitude journaling. But then I slowly wanted to write about my day, because what would happen is when I would go back to my gratitude journal and look at what I was grateful for like 3 weeks ago, I would have written a bunch of stuff and then I would think about what happened that day. Why did I write this down? Who did I meet? What did I do? What did I learn? And I sort of had like these bits and pieces of this puzzle that I couldn't exactly solve. So what I started doing was writing a proper journal of my day-to-day activity or weekly, whatever felt right at the time. So what I started doing was I couldn't exactly allocate separate time for that. So what I did was as soon as I wrote stuff down on my gratitude journal, I would immediately take another book and start journaling there. So that was really easy for me to do rather than allocating a separate time, calling it a different task, calling it, I need to do this as well. Rather than doing that, if you say, hey, this is my journal hour, or I'm going to take 20 minutes to journal, I will break down those 20 minutes, 10 minutes for gratitude journaling and 10 minutes for normal journaling. That is habit stacking. It just helps you when you attach a task that you're already doing with another task followed by it, not simultaneously, followed by it. You cannot multitask. Habit stacking has got nothing to do with multitasking. Habit stacking is you completing one task and then moving on to the other. And there should be some sort of relevance or a flow to it so that once you keep doing this habit stacking, it converts into becoming an autopilot. So what happens is I'm so used to this by now. I have done this for over 2 years. Whenever I pick up my gratitude journal, I immediately turn back and take my other journal and start writing in it. The third thing is mindset. You can write down hundreds of goals. You can tell yourself, I'm going to do A, B, and C. You can track your progress. You can have systems in place. But if you don't actually believe that you can do something, if you don't actually see yourself doing something, if you can't imagine, if you can't visualize yourself doing something, it will not happen. Whenever I think about waking up at 4 a.m., if I can't see myself as someone getting up at 4 a.m., there's no way I'm getting up at 4 a.m. So it's very important to keep in mind that your mind is your biggest enemy. So be very, very careful about how you set goals, because if you think they are not realistic, don't do them. If you think they are not realistic, don't set goals that way. Be very mindful. Just remember that consistency, discipline over anything else. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have elaborate goals. Your goals could literally be drink 1 liter of water. Your goals could literally be walk for 20 minutes a day. Your goals could literally be be kind to yourself. It could be anything, literally anything. Before I end this episode, I want you to remember that even though we have like all of these systems in place, even if you have your mindset and everything, you will still fall off your cycle. You will still fall off your routine. And that is totally normal. I love resetting my routines. I love going back to my routines and telling myself, you know what, this is not working out anymore. For example, I know I've talked about this a lot. When I moved to Cleveland, I became a morning coffee person. I was always a coffee person, but I was never a morning coffee person. But once I moved to Cleveland, that changed. But now I'm trying to like slowly remind myself that, hey, when you drink lemon water in the morning, you feel 100 times better. So stop drinking coffee in the morning. But I'm not being too hard on myself. There are still days when I choose to have a cup of coffee, and that is totally fine. Because now the majority of the time I'm drinking lemon water, it's okay to substitute that with coffee when I feel like I need coffee. So this is something my father always used to tell me. Think about this. Anytime you feel like you're having a setback, this is what you need to think. What do I stop doing? What do I start doing? And what do I continue doing? These 3 things will help you reset your routines, reset your mindset, and really help you get to where you want to be. And that's all I have for today's episode. I hope you found it useful. Please feel free to reach out to me on Instagram. I would love to hear from you. Now go grab a cup of lemon water. I have to go make myself a cup of lemon water. But thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate you. I really hope this episode helps you set your mindset clearly and help you understand how consistency should be your number 1 goal for 2024. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.